You said that there's a difference between a fighter and a martial artist. So now we were talking about fighting. You're considered by many to be one of the greatest fighters of all time. But you've said that there's a difference between a fighter and a martial artist. A fighter is training for a purpose. He has a fight. I'm a martial artist. I don't train for a fight. I train for myself. I'm training all the time. My goal is perfection, but I will never reach perfection. So what to you does it mean to be a martial artist?
Martial artist is because that lifestyle that I have has been introduced to me, and the seed has been planted to my mind a long, long time ago by my father. I I do not train because I have a fight. I will always train. Even now, it kind of amused me that to see that a lot of people, because I'm still training, because I love the science of fighting. I do not like to fight, but I love the science of it. And I will always do it as long as I can do it. People think I'm gonna make a comeback and everything. I'm about to get to have 40 years old, like I'm, like
Well, Mike
I don't want
Tyson,
to fight in a cage at 40 years old. I mean, some people have done it and they did it very well, but I'm not one of them. I feel a little bit to me that, and you never say never. I feel like to me, like it's a little like a kid that you play with a string when he's young, like brrr, brrr, then he's 5 years old, brrr, 6 years old, brrr, 7 years old, brrr, 8 years old, and then I'm like, what the hell I'm doing here? And I'm too old for this. Like it's I've done it, and I got out of it on top, and I'm healthy, which is the most important thing right now. I'm touching wood, and I'm wealthy. I beat the game, you know what I mean? In a way, like I that's not to be cocky, but I did it, and I wish more fighters could do the same thing. I wish, but it's unfortunate because a lot of them, they stay there and hang out for too long, and they get badly hurt. They get beaten and broken, and they finish broke as well, because the lifestyle you have when you're a pro athlete, it's crazy, it's unbelievable. However, everything that goes up in life goes down, and you need to plan your future, so for me, what if some guys have the same mentality as me and they're watching us right now, I would say, if you do it because you're just good at it, you like the money, the advantage, the freedom that it gives you, but you don't necessarily like to fight, when you're done, you finish on top, go cash out and get out of here.
walk away. That's really hard to do.
However, Lex, it's not everybody that does it for that reason. Some people generally love to fight, love to compete. So they do it because they love it, or they do it because of the money. But if you don't love it, if you don't like to fight because it's very stressful and you don't enjoy, you enjoy the training perhaps, but you don't like to fight, you do it because it's part of what you need to do in order to keep that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And, like you don't need the money. It's like, get out of here, man. If you're in your prime, get out of here, because if you don't, you'll hurt your own legacy. You'll damage your health. It's very sad. And it's a sad business, you know what I mean? It's like a lot of one of the place where is one of the most happiest place for me to go, and the saddest place for me to go. It's in the gym. It's in TriStar in Montreal, because it's one of the happiest place for me to go because I can go train and do what I love to do. But it's also a very sad place for me because after, when I'm about to leave, there's always a bunch of young kid that comes, or guys that are around 30, 33 years old, and they come to me and say, hey, George, you have some advice for me? And I look at them, and if they're my friend, they're a real close friend of mine, I'll tell them the truth in their face. And I've done it many times, and it was not well received. But if they're not my friend, I have to, it's always an advice about fighting, and I answer their question. It's my pleasure. But the truth, if they want me to tell the truth, the big majority of them, I would tell them, I said, listen, man, you're in maybe on a losing streak of 3 fights. You're 30, 33 years old, I think you should think about doing something else in your life, have other goals, because you're not going to make it. And, I've seen that movie before, and it's a very sad ending. And I'm sad to tell you the truth because you're not gonna make the money. Just choose some. But if I tell them that, they're gonna be angry at me because they're gonna be like, "Oh, you make it, and you think I cannot make it." So it's kind of they're gonna think I'm cocky. But I was lucky to make it. You know what? The stars were all aligned. But at one point, you need to be able to have a plan B. You know, like some parent they come to see me with their kids. Hey, this is the future world champion in UFC, and what advice would you give him? I always tell the same thing, and it does not make everybody happy when I said. I go to the kid, I say, "Are you good at school?" Say, "Stay at school. School is very important for you. Stay educated." Yeah, do boxing, martial arts. It's a great sport. Stay in shape, but don't put your eggs all in the same basket. And the parents sometimes are angry when I not angry, but I can see in their eyes they're like they kind of surprised. And it's not because I made it that I will tell their kid to follow the same path that I did. I went to school too. I've studied. I dropped of school when I had my first world championship fight against Matt Hughes. But before that, I was school. So I had another, another way to go if things would not have gone the same, the way I wanted. But the problem, and I'm saying that it's not only about boxing and MMA. I'm talking about hockey, basketball, baseball, same thing. Maybe it's the one on 100,000 that make it. And I'm saying that make it. When I'm saying I make it, that's mean they can retire and have enough money for the rest of his life. Because it's a sad story. People only heard about the people that makes it, but a lot of fighter, even a UFC champion, in boxing champion, even in football, basketball, I don't care. The big names, when they retire, they have zero. They're bankrupt, my friend, and it's a very sad story and a sad reality that most people are not aware of.
But having other paths in life actually can also increase the chance of you dominating and like reaching the highest peak in your main thing. I mean, Jimmy Pedro, I don't know if you know who that is a judo coach in America. He says that to all of his athletes, is to make sure that you go. He has a lot of, Kayla Harrison, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. He has a lot of Olympic medalists. But basically, there's something about going to school, like forget school, any other avenue in life that gives you the freedom to go all out in your main. Like that, you're doing it for the right reasons. You're not stuck. It clears the mind to where you're free to be the best in the world.
Yes.
As opposed to kind of you have to. I mean, different people are motivated by different things. So sometimes some people like having their back to the wall, and that's the only option they have. But most people, I think, excel when you have other options.
I think it's a distraction, and I think it's important to have a distraction. When you say that, I think about one of my coach, John Danaher. He put his academic background experience into jiu-jitsu. And that, for me, that's why he's the best teacher I ever had. He's incredible. He started teaching me when I even couldn't speak much English at the time. And I was able to communicate and understand, that's how good he is. But I truly believe that most of athletes, especially in sport like mixed martial art, train way too much. If I could go back and talk to a young George, I would tell him, say, you do way too much volume. You train way too hard. Train smarter. It's more important. And I think sometimes we underestimate the benefit of recuperation. Because we assimilate the information that we learn during a training when we recuperate, and not during the training itself. And this whole mentality of harder, heavier, like it's good for someone who's lazy. But if you're an elite athlete, most of the time, like you're not always, but most of the time it's because you're not lazy. And a lot of guys, sometimes they're elite athlete champions, and you hear people say, oh, I can't believe he's very gifted, but he doesn't work. But perhaps it's not really perhaps it's because we don't understand. Perhaps he's doing the right thing, and it's us who's working too much and too hard. That's what I think. There's a guy I train with. He made me think about it. His name is Mansour Barnaoui. He's gonna be a future star. He's an incredible fighter. He trained once a day. And he asked me sometime advice when he came to Montreal. He's from France. You'll hear about him. He's very good. And I saw him in the morning at TriStar, and I said, okay, I'll see you perhaps later in the other training. He's, oh no, I only train once a day. And he kind of wait for me to give him like not an approval, but like to see how I react, or I don't know. It was kind of a strange feeling, but I told myself at that point I had an awakening, and I told myself, man, maybe he's doing the right thing. Because a lot of people would say, for example, oh, that's a lazy way of doing it. But perhaps it's the best way to do it. I'm not saying that training once a day is the best way to do it. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that everybody is different. But for him, it works beautifully. And I wouldn't change anything, like if I would be him, because he's improving like crazy.
Yeah, and ultimately the bigger picture there is to do something that everyone else says is stupid. It's like the fasting thing that a lot of people would say, a lot of nutritional experts would say that's a dumb way. If you want to be an MMA fighter, you should be eating like many times a day. You should be starting every day with oatmeal. You should be carbing up constantly. But that's not necessarily true for everybody. And it's possible. I'm sure there's actually now a few MMA fighters that are carnivore only. It's possible.
I used to eat right before training, and it didn't bother me. However, now my first training that I do normally in average around noon, 11 a.m. I haven't eaten anything when I do my first training, and it feels to me that I'm much more clear. I'm much more clear in my mind. I'm much more creative. I feel better. Yeah, it's a big difference. I just wish I would have known that before.
Well, it's fascinating, the role of the mind in all of this. How important is it for your mind to be clear, to really think deeply? There's a judoka American named Travis Stevens. I remember he said something that the right kind of practice is when your mind is exhausted at the end of it, that you were constantly thinking through things. Like your body shouldn't be exhausted first. Your mind should be exhausted first. It's really fascinating. So people think about training hard. A successful practice is where you walk away just overwhelmed how much you had to think. It's fascinating framing of a successful practice.
It's true. Travis Stevens was one of my main training partners when I got ready for my fight with Nick Diaz and Carlos Condit. He drove every Friday from, I believe, Boston. Mm-hmm. It's like a 6-hour drive to the gym in Montreal, train with us an hour and a half, drive back. He's got such an amazing discipline. I was so happy for him when he won the medal at the Olympic game. Man, what a well-deserved accomplishment. It's unbelievable. It paid off. I was so happy for him. And every time we got to the gym, he was waiting for me in the kneeling position like a soldier. I was like, my God, this guy is made of steel, And after training, I always offer him. I say, hey, Travis, I know you like to train with because in Montreal they have a very good judo team, Nicolas Gill and all those guys. And I say, if you want to stay, I'll get you the hotel, like anything you want. It's like, no, I got to go back. I have another training later. I'm like, not only that he trained with us, he had to go back because he had another training. I'm like, this is insane.
And he's gone through a huge number of injuries. So he's also an innovator because, it's difficult to say, but for American judo, there's not many high-level judoka. So if you want to be fight with the best in the world, you have to be alone. It's a lonely journey, actually. It's kind of sad. It's much easier to be in Japan where everybody's a killer. When you're alone at it, it's a difficult journey. And it's funny we talked about kind of there's some sports where a mistake is that's it. You can't recover from a mistake. I think judo oftentimes is one of those sports. And added on top of that is the Olympics, only every 4 years. And Travis's story, he's the reason when I saw him in 2008, is I started martial arts. I switched from like wrestling and street fighting to doing jiu-jitsu and judo. And I just saw so much guts. And in 2000, I might be messing up the years here, but in the next Olympics, he fought and he lost on just the referee call. Yeah. And just he went to war, and he just so much guts and just everything on the line, and to lose and then to still persevere through all their injuries, through all of that, through incredibly difficult training sessions, to go another 4 years and then compete and then win a medal. I mean, that guy is just and like he clearly could have been very successful. He's also an incredible jiu-jitsu competitor, so he could have switched to that, but he's stuck.
In a lot of sport, when you're in elite, like for example in Canada, ice hockey is the number one sport in the country. Kids, when they're in elite, when they're young, they get chosen, and they're kind of already known as a superstar. The school where they go and the program they follow. Like I'm sure it's the same thing in US and basketball, baseball, perhaps. American football, because they already chosen, so they grow up with that etiquette, that superstar stardom, so to speak, and it's already sort of glamorous, However, in MMA, there's no MMA, judo, wrestling, like in America, because it's not our national sport. It's not like, even when I first started, it was not really well received by the media. There's no glamour into it. Now, I don't know. It seems like it's another era now. And I feel sometimes that some people do it for the wrong reason. Some people do it because of the glamour, because of the money. But even if you're an elite and very good, the glamour and the money won't come in the beginning. It's a very long grind before it start to come in, and you need to make those sacrifices. And it's a journey where you will be tested, you will be hurt repetitively, and you're gonna have to reach the down deep and come back up. And then once you finally think you made it, you're gonna go back in the down deep again. It's a very exhausting and discouraging adventure sometimes. But if you hold on to your dream and you believe in it, and you have the stars are aligned, you're gonna make it. That's why it's only a few people that make it, and that's why I feel sometimes a lot of people in the new generation do it for the wrong reason. In my generation, because of sport, at first there were no rules. Mm-hmm. I felt it was more pure. The people that did it was really because of the passion. We didn't seek money, fame. We did it because we wanted to be. I did it because I wanted to be the man. I like to have the confidence that when I walk somewhere, I have the confidence that it's an illusion because nobody is faster than a bullet.
Yes.
But I wanted to achieve it for myself, which today now, because I don't know if it's social media and all that, the world has changed. The glamour, I feel it's a different thing right now.
Yeah, if you get in it for the glamour or the money, you may not have the right amount of fuel to persevere through all the ups and downs.
Yeah,
for sure. When you talk about motivation of money and glamour, a guy comes to mind, and I don't know how many wrestlers but in Russia, there's a guy named Buvasiy Satiev. The St-Pierre brothers, one of the greatest freestyle wrestlers of all time. But he also has, it's funny that he doesn't have many interviews. One of my goals is to go out and talk to him in Russian, do an interview with him, because he's exceptionally poetic and a deep thinker. He's the kind of martial artist that you are, in the way that it's not just about the different battles you've been through or whatever. It's about the philosophy behind the way he approaches life. And he has spoken quite a bit about that the glamour, the fame, the money are all things that get in the way of the purity of the experience, the art. That the way to achieve greatness is to just lose yourself in the art of the actual combat. In his case, it's wrestling. And then kind of not to worry and actively make sure that you block out anybody who, you know, feeds you the narrative where you're supposed to be this famous person and it's all those kinds of things. That he basically says, let others write your story. Make sure that you just focus on the art. And another person from that side of the world is, of course, Khabib. So he represents that side of the world. And we were talking about walking away and most people not being able to walk away at the top, as you have, but also now Khabib has, it looks like, incredibly so. So, I mean, maybe you can comment about what your thoughts are about Khabib Nurmagomedov being able to just walk away.
You know, we talk about the GOAT very often. Khabib is, is in the argument because he has the most dominant career of all martial art guy. You know, some guys can be named the GOAT for different reasons, but Khabib, for that reason, and he's undefeated. I don't even know if he lost a round. He might have lost a round, but he dominated all his opponent. It was ridiculous, and such an incredible career that he had. I love to watch him fight. He's incredible. And when you talk about the art, when you say mixed martial art, the idea of a flawless performance for me, everybody often when we say flawless performance thinks about a knockout, a brutal knockout. But for me, it's to be able to showcase beautiful technique, like a beautiful takedown, beautiful submission, like something beautiful that, when you look at, for example, Wayne Gretzky or Michael Jordan or like Stephen Curry, or even if you don't know nothing about basketball and you watch Michael Jordan, you'll be like, wow, that's beautiful what you just did. Like, we talk about fighting and trying to say the word beautiful in fighting, for certain people it could sound kind of crazy, but I'm talking about the technique, a beautiful technique. For me, that's the goal. When I was fighting, it's not only to have a brutal knockout, because some people are more gifted than others, and I'm saying gifted, some people are better than others in certain phase of fighting. But for me, it was to showcase, to win, of course, but to showcase some beautiful technique that you can watch it and be like, wow, that was incredible. The timing, he did it. And